Friends, Bruchim Habayim, welcome. And thank you once again to Cantor Shira Lissick, the congregational singers, and all those who took part in our Yom Hashoah observance. We turn our attention to the second stage of our Yom Hashoah commemoration, an address by Father Patrick de Bois, in a moment whom we will hear. This evening's event comes by way of a special partnership between the Jewish Theological Seminary and Park Avenue Synagogue. I want to thank Barbara Weinstein, Aaron Eisenstadt, Leon Gould, and the entire PAS JTS committee for all of your hard work towards making this evening possible throughout the year, not just tonight, to affirm, celebrate, and embrace the relationship between Park Avenue Synagogue and the mothership, as it were, Park Avenue Synagogue's relationship with the Jewish Theological Seminary. And we welcome Chancellor Eisen, who in a moment will share a few introductory remarks to this evening. And of course, we will welcome you this coming Shabbat as our annual seminary Shabbat takes place, with Chancellor Eisen addressing us on Shabbat morning. This evening, Yom Hashoah originally had its name as Yom Hashoah v'Hagvura. Why was this day of all days, the 27th of Nisan, chosen for Holocaust observance? Initially, of course, it's called Yom Hashoah v'Hagvura in its connection not just to the Shoah, but the Gvura, the heroism of those who fought in the Warsaw Ghetto uprising, the liquidation of the ghetto to take place on Erev Pesach. The first night of Pesach, the 15th of Nisan. Initially, the thought was to create the observance actually on that date, to combine the two elements of Shoah and Gvura, here and now. Originally on Passover, obviously, the decision was made in Eretz Yisrael and subsequently for us that we could not mix, as it were, the most redemptive moment of our people's history, Passover Seder, when we are freed from our enslaved condition, with the horrors of the Shoah, the compromise being that the day of remembrance would fall today on the 27th day of Nisan. But we know that in the sign and cosign of our psyches, of our Jewish identities, we have gone from our Passover Seder tables of God's intervention in Jewish history to redeem us from servitude into the darkest day where God's absence, hester panim, the hiddenness of God's face, is most acutely felt. And then, of course, a week from this evening, we will gather once again to celebrate God's return to Jewish history with the establishment of the State of Israel, 1948, which we will celebrate here as a community. But it's this, as I say, sign and cosign of God's presence and absence that we're acutely aware of at this time of year, all the more so at this evening's gathering. When we welcome Father de Bois, we are aware of this one individual who has committed his life to bringing God's presence back into humanity's presence. When we think of the mission of the Jewish Theological Seminary, we think of an institution that is so well aware of its commitment to the Jewish past, its obligations to remember, but also its obligations to create and build a Jewish future. And so when we celebrate the relationship between Park Avenue and JTS, it's not just a place where our rabbis, our cantors, our educators are trained. Our support of the Jewish Theological Seminary signals our belief that though we are committed to remembering, that commitment happens by way of expressions of investments in the Jewish future. And so I thank you for being here to remember, but I also thank you for your efforts sustained throughout the year, your commitments towards the Jewish Theological Seminary, a relationship we are so proud of here at Park Avenue Synagogue. It's my great pleasure to call upon the leader of that effort here at Park Avenue Synagogue, Barbara Weinstein, to share words of welcome.
Thank you, Rabbi. Those were tough acts to follow earlier, so, okay. Good, you didn't hear that. Okay. Making good decisions is difficult, even for highly educated professionals. According to David Brooks, choice is a powerful tool that defines us and the institutions with which we are affiliated. In her excellent book, The Art of Choosing, Sheena Iyengar underscored that the choices we make are powerful. They truly define who we are and the people we will influence. Eventually, these people go on to make their own choices, and so it goes. Sadly, many people, young and old alike, are disappointed by the choices they have made in their lives. This evening, we have two highly distinguished professionals whose choices are an inspiration by dint of the groundbreaking work they do and the mission of the institutions they lead. Their names are synonymous with excellence, their leadership style and ability to motivate unparalleled. It was my choice to introduce Arnold Eisen, an American Judaic scholar, the 7th Chancellor of the Jewish Theological Seminary, and the first person with background in the social sciences to hold this exalted position. The board at JTS made an amazing choice. It is now my privilege to introduce Chancellor Eisen.
Thank you. Almost exactly a year ago, I had the privilege of conferring an honorary degree at JTS's commencement ceremony on Father Bois. And rather than read that citation, and when you hear Father Bois speak in a minute, you'll understand completely some of the reasons why JTS was moved to honor him. Rather than read that citation, I want to talk about two things in our heritage of Judaism, that Father Bois epitomizes in his work. The first is that we have a particular conception of memory. There are lots of traditions which talk about memory, and it's kind of like a buzzword in contemporary culture. But most of the time when people talk about memory, they think about being sure you know about an event of the past, or you want to make sure that of the many things that flit across your consciousness in a given day or a given year, included in that array of things are some things that happened in the past or some teachings from the past. That is not why we Jews remember the Exodus from Egypt at Passover every year. We remember because we believe that memory reminds us of obligations. To do a pun in English that is really true to the Hebrew, we recall the past so that we can be recalled, called again to the work that we're supposed to be doing here and now in our present in order to build the future. And when you hear Father Bois speak about what he's doing, the witnessing that he's doing to dead Jews who never received the recognition of a name before, this recall of the past is something that for him feeds into work in building Catholic-Jewish relations in the present and work that is involved in fighting genocide in the present, because as we all know, and he's going to forcibly remind us, the Nazi example of genocide is being recalled today by others who are doing some of the very same things. We have to fight them. We have to know how to fight them. And our memory of the past is part of what gives us not just motivation, but urgency and knowledge about how to conduct that fight, and not just fight them physically by stopping the murderers, but fighting them by building the kind of world where their message cannot take hold. So that's the kind of memory to which Jews are recalled at Passover, and which Father Bois is going to recall us to in his words this evening. I wanted to mention one piece of more recent Jewish thought that's personally meaningful to me. In the year 1984, the Jewish philosopher and theologian Emil Fackenheim published a book called To Mend the World. Obviously, to mend the world, what he had in mind was the Takein Olam. And Fackenheim is writing before the phrase Tikkun Olam really took hold, before everyone, including the President of the United States, is now talking about Tikkun Olam. Fackenheim had a very simple and powerful message to Jews, which is central to our observance of Yom HaShoah. Fackenheim's claim in that book was the Holocaust represents a rupture for the world. And he's forthright in saying that the ability of Christianity to carry on with self-respect and respect by others in the world after the Holocaust, that ability is ruptured by the fact that not only did millions of Christians stand by while the Holocaust took place, but many leading Christian voices, many theologians in Germany, joined in applause for Hitler's efforts. In other words, there were Christians who applauded Hitler in the name of their Christianity, and Fackenheim says that's a rupture for Christianity. And the fact that this Holocaust was instigated by the nation which represented the highest achievement of Western culture in the world is a rupture for all of Western civilization. And the fact that leading philosophers, the most famous, of course, of whom being Heidegger, the greatest philosopher of his day, not just stands by and lets it happen, but is an active Nazi, Fackenheim said that is a rupture for philosophy. All of these ruptures are in need of tikkun. And Fackenheim says the tikkun of Christianity is that there were people who risked their lives and gave their lives to fight Hitler and the Nazis in the name of their Christian faith. And there were philosophers who stood up to Hitler in the name of their philosophy and died because of that. And there were civilizations, there were cultures that fought the Nazis because of the ideals of their culture. That begins the tikkun for the rupture. And I'd like to suggest to you that when, as Jews, we encounter a person like Father de Bois, whose faith moves him in all humility to do the heroic, courageous, and difficult work that he undertakes, that is nothing less than a tikkun. We are engaged in a kind of memory this evening that is not just memory of the past, but a recall to the work of the present so that together we can build the future. And this really is, as we say in our Aleinu prayer, this is really the Takein Olam b'Malchut Shaddai. This is really to repair a rupture in the world, to try to bring the world into line with the kingdom of God that God intended us for all of us to be. I want to thank you all for being with us this evening to join in this work of solemn remembrance, which is also a work of dedication. It's a work to which we are all called. And with that, I'm going to turn the floor back to Rabbi Cosgrove, who is going to introduce Father de Bois. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you, Chancellor Eisen, for your words. Thank you for your leadership. We look forward to hearing from you this coming Shabbat morning here at Park Avenue Synagogue. Father Patrick de Bois is the secretary to the French Conference of Bishops for Relations with Judaism, advisor to the Cardinal Archbishop of Lyon, and advisor to the Vatican on the Jewish religion. He is the president of Yachad in Unum Association and the founder and honoree of the United States Holocaust Memorial Museum for his outstanding contribution to the memory of Holocaust victims in Ukraine, a recent honorary doctorate from the Jewish Theological Seminary, and the winner of the B'nai B'rith International Award for outstanding contributions to relations with the Jewish people. He lives in Paris, France, as he leads Yachad in Unum, an organization of 40-some strong, committed to the work that we've just seen. It is a great pleasure to introduce Father Patrick de Bois.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Rabbi. It's a great honor to be in your synagogue. When I was younger, nobody knew me, so you didn't know, but I came sometime to your Shabbos office. I was in the bottom here. And some priest told me nobody knows you, so you can go wherever you want. And I knew already you were successful. So you can wonder why a French priest, you came to a synagogue and you meet a priest. I hope next time it will not be the same. And why a French priest from Burgundy? Normally Burgundy is much better for the wine, but for anything. Why he comes to speak? Because he spends his life with 40 young persons in Paris in the killing fields of Ukraine, Poland, Romania, Moldavia, Transnistria, Belarus, Russia, etc., Lithuania. Everything began by a family story. I am from Burgundy, and my grandfather was deported in July 42 as military from France to Ukraine. And he came back, and I was with him when I was a child. He was a very funny person. But when we were speaking about the village of the deportation called Ravaruska is not far from Belzec. Impossible. He didn't even want to say where it was. My grandmother was crying, and that was finished. So one day I pushed him, I say, why you don't speak? I say, perhaps you did something bad, perhaps you killed somebody. And he was very upset. He called me, no, I was a prisoner. We had no food, no drink, but outside the camp was worse than a camp. And me as a child, I didn't understand what could be worse than a camp. You know what, but at my generation, we didn't learn Holocaust. Don't forget that. We knew nothing. We knew only the book of Anne Frank. And so I became mathematics teacher and priest, and by hazard or providence, I went to Ravaruska. And we make a memorial for the French prisoners. And we had a little bit more money, and I say we could make a memorial for the Jews, because I knew that in the village they shot 18,000 Jews, plus 25,000 prisoners, Soviet, plus Gypsy. So it means there are 40,000 people buried around the village. I went to see the municipality. It was Soviet. And the mayor told me, no, Father, they killed the Jews in secret. And me, you know, the village is very small. So to kill 18,000 people in secret, in my village, we killed 2 Germans. And everybody knows it. So 18,000. So I came back 4, 5, 6 times to meet the municipality with always the same question, where are the mass graves of the Jews? I was, as I say, I was the nudnik of the village with only one question, you know. And finally, the mayor, thanks God, he lost the election. And a new mayor arrived, and he took me, he said, Father Patrick, I will bring you in the forest. He brought me in the forest with 50 farmers who were present at the killing. And here is the beginning of the story. I will never forget, they were like that, and it was a pit behind. One man, he stood and he said, I was alone with my mom, keeping a cow, and suddenly a German arrived alone with a motorcycle and a dog. And all the village was wondering why one German alone. In fact, now we know. They always send one German 2-3 days before the killing. He is the architect of the mass grave. He has contacted the municipality. He knows how many Jews are still alive, and he calculates the volume of the mass grave according to the number of people they want to kill. You must understand there are 2 kinds of mass graves. Mass graves are round, and they kill people from the top, and they fall down. And some mass graves are long with stairs, and they force the Jews to go down and to lay on the corpse. It's called Sardinenpackung. So for Ravaruska, effectively, 2 days after, arrived 3 Germans with 30 Jews, and they forced the Jews to dig. You must understand the people who speak to us are simple people, Soviet people. So he said the Germans were worried. So suddenly they asked a table and they put a gramophone to listen German music. And one, he began to play harmonica. You know, harmonica was very in fashion at that period. And this soldier, he broke his harmonica, and after, with metallic detector, we found the pieces of German harmonica in the ground. After, the Germans began to be hungry, so they asked to the village 2 chicken, and they grilled the chicken. And after they said to the Jews, now you are tired, you should go out of the grave. So the 30 Jews went out and began to sit on the grass, and secretly, one Ukrainian policeman, he went down and he put explosive under the ground. And after they said to the Jews, you can go on digging. And of course, the 30 Jews exploded. I will never forget, at that moment arrived another witness, a woman called Maria, and she said, the German came in my farm and said, come, come. And she had to climb in the trees and take the pieces of corpse and hide them with branches. You must know these testimonies are very difficult to listen because the Soviets speak very roughly. She said there was one leg here, half a corpse there, etc. And after, they brought trucks and trucks and trucks of Jews. In 1 day and a half, they shot 1,500 Jews with only 2 shooters, with carabine Mauser, and 3 pushers. Why pushers? Because they established a law, 1 bullet, 1 Jew, 1 Jew, 1 bullet. So if people were only injured, they pushed them and they buried them alive. And after, in all the villages of Soviet Union, in Romania, in Lithuania, in Russia, people said it took 3 days the mass grave to die. You know, me, I was in shock because I realized they killed the Jews in public. I realized my grandfather saw everything. I realized also people wanted to speak. But I was not ready. I was trained as a simple priest. I was not ready to listen to stories like that. And when I was alone with the forest, with the mayor, and he brought me back to the car, and I will never forget, he told me, Patrick, what I did for you for 1 village, I can do for 100 villages. And I will never know why he said that, and I will never know why I said yes. My life, I've always been driven like that. God drove me like that, in one moment. I came back to Paris. I met Cardinal Lustiger, who was Jew. He told me, Patrick, I know the story, because my Jewish Polish family has been shot the same way in Beijing, in Poland. After I went to New York, I knew nobody. I met the manager of the World Jewish Congress, and he didn't know I was speaking Hebrew. So he said to another one, you know what? We are looking for these mass graves since 1944, and I have in front of me a priest who finds them. So we decided to build a non-profit in a secret place near Paris. The World Jewish Congress came and met with Lustiger, and we built this non-profit called Yachad, together in Hebrew and in Unum. And Lustiger said we will not say Unum because we are not one with the Jews, but we are in one, and one is God. So it's Yachad in one. So it's a crazy name because when I work with Catholic, they ask me why Yachad. When I work with Jews, they say, why in Unum? And I work with others, they understand nothing. So it's a very practical name. So it's a very useful name. And, but it's like that. And so we began like that. And me, at the beginning, I was thinking to find the mass grave only around Ravaruska and Vuf. But suddenly, I saw that there was 1 mass grave per village. After 1 year, we are still in the same district. So we decided to build the real methodology scientific. And people ask me, why you don't do all Ukraine? I say, yes, why I don't do all Ukraine, because only in Ukraine they killed by shooting 1.8 million. There are more victims in Ukraine than in Auschwitz. After, why not Belarus? Why not Russia? Why not Lithuania? Why not Poland? Because in Poland, 1 Jew per 10 has been shot. There are mass graves everywhere. Not everybody has been taken in the camp, and the Polish try to. And so now we have found 1,700 extermination sites. We have found back 1.3 million Jews, and it stays 1 million to find. It's a short challenge because the witnesses are not young, and I estimate that we have 5 years to find 1 million Jews who are missing, that we'll never find if we don't find them. Why do we do that? Why we stand? Because it's not always easy. Sometimes it's raining, sometimes it's snowing, sometimes the police arrive, sometimes the neighbors are shooting to us, we have 2 bodyguards. It's complicated. It's not easy, as I say. It's complicated. And the first reason, since I am a child, I listen to this question of God in the Bible, God to Cain. He says to Cain, where is your brother? So since I am a child, I say, where is your Jewish brother? Where is your gypsy brother from Poland, from Ukraine, from Moldavia? He's nowhere, he's underground. And you remember the answer of Cain? He said, Amma is the guardian of my brother. It means I have so many things to do, modernity, I have to build a life. I am alive and my brother is dead. And God said, don't you hear that the blood of evil is climbing from earth until heaven? And the commentary says the blood. It means all the people would be killed after. So I always say we will not build Europe correctly. We will not build Soviet Union, post-Soviet Union correctly. We cannot build America correctly, Australia correctly, if we ask 2.3 million Jews to keep silent. Because we have no time. The second thing, if we don't bury the Jews, because you must understand that in Ukraine, 70% of the mass graves today are reopened by the neighbors because they look for gold teeth. So the bones are outside. It's not a nice situation. If we don't bury the Jews, if we don't bury the gypsies in Europe, if we build supermarket, highway, anything on mass graves, you must understand the biggest mass grave is 54,000 people in one place, north of Odessa. What can we do today? What can we say to Rwanda? What can we say to Cambodia? What can we say to Iraq and to ISIS if it was nothing to kill 2.3 million Jews? The last thing also that I work on since long time, one day I was in Cracovia with an old intellectual from Poland. He was not anti-Semite. He told me, Patrick, Hitler made a mistake. He built Auschwitz. I say, why is it a mistake for you? He says, because the Jews are coming back. When they kill them in forests, they never came back. It took me years to understand. Effectively, in the biggest killing sites, even where there are 50,000 Jews, nobody comes back. There's a small stone, because there is nothing to see. It's a field. You cannot make a march of living from America to a field. But the dead are there. So I realize now that the mass killers, they understood that. Nobody rebuilt an Auschwitz. No Auschwitz in Rwanda, no Auschwitz in Cambodia, no Auschwitz today with Bashar al-Assad, no Auschwitz with ISIS, but shooting, cutting the throat, and bombing, and mass graves. Because people don't come back. Auschwitz was the end of modernity in genocide. As I say, and I say it frequently, the Jews always say never again, and the mass killers say never again Auschwitz. It's not the same. So we have to teach Holocaust largely as it was in the camps, but also as it was in the mass grave, because today it's a reference. Yesterday, I was teaching, making a speech for the students of the high school of La Salle. Most of the children were from Puerto Rico, from Guatemala, African-American, in difficult situation. I never saw such an attention. Why? Because I explained the connection between Holocaust, the mass crime, and the gangs. Same methodology. Same crime one-to-one. By shooting with the same guns, with the same material, with a few groups, you can kill a lot of people. So I invite you for this commemoration of Holocaust, for this Yom Hashoah, to think. You are a large crowd. That's wonderful, because it's not everywhere. But you have to stand. First, the disease is not finished. Anti-Semitism is growing. In my country, before 10 years ago, when they killed the first Jew, Ilan Halimi, there were 15,000 French in the street. Now they kill one Jew. There are a few Jews in the street. Now when they attack a synagogue, no news in the newspaper. There is nothing in the newspaper until they kill a Jew. Otherwise it would be every day. And it's not in Paris only, it's in Marseille, it's in Lyon, it's in Strasbourg, in all the cities. I give you an example. There was a demonstration last week against the police. It was ultra-left demonstration. They jumped on a police station. So the police, of course, resisted, so they jumped on the synagogue. But nobody said that anything, because more we say it, more they do it. So anti-Semitism is growing. Don't dream in America. Don't live in an island. You would be in France, here would be full policemen to protect you, plus militaries. And the rabbi would be very worried. You cannot imagine what is a synagogue full of people in Paris today. It's like a bunker. Second thing, the disease of genocide is not finished. I work in Iraq. I was just in Iraq 2 days ago, and I will be back in Iraq in 2 weeks, because we work for the victim of ISIS. ISIS is doing exactly the same model as the SS. They kill anybody that is not like them. Muslim who don't practice, they kill them. Shiite, they kill them. Christian, they expulse them. The gay, they throw them from the building. And I work for the Yazidi that they put in slavery and they train in terrorist camps. It's what you will see in 60 minutes. So the disease is the same. You are the people of God. You have a responsibility for the planet. The teaching of Holocaust is not to teach Holocaust. It's to protect the planet. And I can tell you, I will be tomorrow evening in Guatemala. I have 150 students waiting for me for the same speech. Not one is Jew. They paid their seat. It's full. It's overbooked. Guatemala. The new generation is waiting for your teaching. But go out. Go out, teach to new generation. They are waiting for you. Teaching Holocaust is a responsibility to save the planet. We have to teach how evil has worked in 42, 43, 44, because unfortunately, it's still working today. Thank you.
We're going to engage in a bit of Q&A. Father Bois, thank you so much. We're honored by your presence, and we thank you for your work, your tireless work, not just, of course, being here this evening, but for everything you and Yachad in Unum do each and every day of the year. Friends, on the handouts that you've received, in addition to the material on the Jewish Theological Seminary, there's information if you yourself would like to get involved in the sacred work of Yachad in Unum, you can see that on your seats, and certainly to speak to some of the professionals who are here to get involved more in your work. Father Dubois, how has your work been received by the church itself, by your colleagues, whether that's other priests who have more traditional pulpits or other people in the Catholic Church?
I would say, we are not like the Jews. We don't say our own opinion. So, it's very different, And so the Cardinal of Paris protects me, and he speaks publicly in favor of Yarad very frequently. The Pope Benedict sent a letter to say what we do is good, that a priest is important to find the truth. So for me, it's enough as Teuda. Surely, in many meetings, nobody asks me what I do, because they are embarrassed. For the Christian, I don't know for the Jews, but for the Christian, it's difficult to care about any genocide. Because, in Catholicism, when you go in a church, me, I speak deeply. You are adults, so I jump in the problem. I'm not a diplomat. And when you go in a church, you have only one dead, is Jesus. Nobody is dead. Peter, the statue of Peter, or Paul, or whatever, or Abraham, nobody is dead, except one. So for the church, suddenly, to take care of so many other dead, killed in the worst condition, it's a tension. But I think for every religion, to believe in God and to care about genocide is difficult. It's difficult. It's a tension. I give you an example. I was in Medjugorje. Medjugorje, so is a holy place where it was a Baal Shem Tov. So it's a place of pilgrimage. People come from all over the planet to pray on the tomb of the Baal Shem Tov. But 1 kilometer from the tomb of the Baal Shem Tov, there are 3,000 Jews in mass graves. And one day, I was in Medjugorje, and I saw buses arriving, Haredi people speaking Yiddish, and coming to pray on the tomb. And I say, why you don't say Kaddish for the dead? Because they are not far. Same problem. Difficult to leave Brooklyn and ask for a miracle when the miracle didn't work in 42. We have the same problem. And for the church, it's the same problem. So I say that because it's not necessarily an anti-Judaism. It's more an embarrassing question. Theologically. Because nobody works on that. And,
because your work signals a church and a world standing silent?
No, it's deeper than that. It's deeper than that. It's deeper than that because even in my tradition, Jesus has never been confronted to any crime if you read well the Bible. So, and I think for any religion to believe in God and to confront a genocide is a terrible challenge. Because there are people who believe in God with pink glasses, so everything is okay, God is with me, and we are strong and we are well. And there are people who care about the worst, but they don't see anymore where is God. And so when you are trying to have both, it's a consecration of yourself in a special way. So people are afraid of you in one way because you bring the dead. As I say, nobody now invites me for birthday, because I break the party, Somebody will ask me, what are you doing? And so it's finished the birthday. So
when I want to read something from your book. Father Dubois' book, The Holocaust by Bullets, a horrifying and redemptive and just describing your work, The Holocaust by Bullets. You write of going out to a mass grave. While the mass graves of thousands of Jews who were shot are untraceable, every German killed during the war has been reburied and identified by name. The cemeteries on the scale of the Reich, magnificent cemeteries for the Germans, including the SS, little graves for the French, white stones covered in brambles for the tens of thousands of anonymous Soviet soldiers, absolutely nothing for the Jews.
Yeah.
Thus, under the ground, and this is a paragraph that got me, everything is still in order according to the hierarchy of the Reich. We cannot give a posthumous victory to Nazism. We cannot leave the Jews buried like animals. We cannot accept this state of affairs and allow our continent to be built on the obliterated memory of the victims of the Reich. It's an incredibly powerful passage. I have to say, when I read it, the image, and I spoke about this past Shabbat, was of Simon Wiesenthal's book, The Sunflower.
Yeah, I know.
Because when he was seeing the mass graves, and he said the German soldiers, each one had a carefully manicured sunflower extending from their gravesite, the Jews nothing. And that's where he got the title of his book, The Sunflower. When your work, Father Desbois, is it about the victims? Is it about the perpetrators? Is it about those who stood or were accomplices? Who is your work directed to, or all of them?
All my organizations, the 40 persons we are directly connected to the victims. I realized in a genocide, after a genocide, I give you an example. You are the Jewish people. You have a very special tradition because your tradition is to sanctify the name of the victims. There is not one Jewish museum against Hitler, not one against Himmler, not one against Goebbels, but always for the victims. But it's not the general tradition. Your tradition didn't open a school. I teach in Georgetown, and I ask to my students, I say, let's speak of Cambodia. Give me a name of killer. Pol Pot. Give me a name of victim. Okay, now let's go to ISIS. Name of killer. Oh, Daesh, name of victim. There is no Anne Frank in the other tradition. Unconsciously, people remember Cain. You know, there was shooting in Paris, in Toulouse first, because there are so many shootings now. Toulouse first. All the French know the name of the killer, Mera. Ask to any French if he knows the name of one Jewish victim. No Anne Frank. So your tradition is a very special tradition anthropologically. Normally, after a mass crime, we remember the killer, even if we condemn him. It will be the name that we keep. But we don't keep, there is no Anne Frank in other genocide. And so I always dream that there is one Anne Frank per genocide. When I was a child, we have no book about Holocaust, only the life of Anne Frank. But today in any museum, it's around the victims. But you are the only people to do that. And you couldn't build a school. After you, the other people didn't do the same. They turn around the killers, unconsciously. And so my organization is totally for the victims. Who cares a poor girl, gypsy, who has been raped and shot in a nobody. And today's the same. When I went in Guatemala, I worked for the victim of Conflicto Armado. We found thousands of girls who have been raped. What is a rape for a girl, an indigenous girl? Nothing. Collateral problem. No Anne Frank. But the killer, yes. Rios Montes, etc. Very important, even if we hate him. So I say that because I think the Jews, you don't sometimes realize what you carry. You have a very special anthropological reaction to the genocide. Very special. But he didn't open a school. People don't follow you.
So let me ask you a naive question, but a practical matter in your work. Why no grave markers? You identify the graves, you interview
That's
people.
very easy. It's very easy. If I put a grave marker, the village will open it immediately to look for gold. So we take the GPS, we take the photograph, we take video. After we connect, if a family wants to go to make a memorial or a Jewish organization, but if we put a marker, we will open it.
So it's a very complicated memory because we remember, we know you have the GPS, but...
But we have hundreds of family now, from America mainly, but also from Australia, from Israel, who ask us in which mass grave is my mom, in which mass grave is my grandfather, in which mass grave is my uncle. And they go back and they say Kaddish for the first time since 42, they have a grave of Holocaust. because they were thinking their family disappeared. I will give you an example. A family called Tenenbaum from Los Angeles. They ask us, they say, we are not sure our family has been sent in a camp. We are from Poland. I sent a young Polish guy from my team, because my team is not French. We have Polish, Ukrainian, etc. It's the only way. He went to the village. He found that all the family has been shot. But he found that a Polish artist, he made a painting of the shooting. And they bought the painting, and the painting, they recognized grandma and grandpa. And they bought the painting, and today the painting is in the Holocaust Museum of Los Angeles. And for the family, they say, it changed everything. We know where is our family buried. And we were thinking they had disappeared. So also these 2 million pound free Jews has been cut from their family. They think there are no grave. Because they think it was Holocaust, so no grave. It's not true. Not true. A big part of the Jews have a grave somewhere. And imagine no Kaddish since 42. So for me, I always say, if the Jews don't come back to their grave, nobody will come back on earth. Because the Jews are connected to their dead. They have the memory, they sanctify these people. So now I can tell you there are hundreds of families pay a flight ticket, say Kaddish for the first time, and make a small memorial. And it's the best, because without politics, without nothing, to pay respect to the dead. It's why it's a double, I would say, we help also people to do a mitzvah, but also to realize they have a grave in Holocaust. You know, to say, I go to pray on the tomb of my mom killed in Holocaust. It was unthinkable before. It's like in many camps, there are mass graves. And people don't say it. Around Sobibor, I found 238 small mass graves. And when you go there, you say, everybody has been burnt. Everything was handmade. Many corpses are still there, even in Auschwitz.
So just a practical question. If anyone in this room wanted to do what the Tannenbaums of Los Angeles did, do they contact...
They contact my organization. We have a website. Or you contact the representative, Robin. You can stand up, but if people see you. And you can contact Robin. You can also contact me through Facebook and through website. I have one person full-time. His name is Patrice Ben Simon. He's Sephardic, nobody is perfect, so he works full time to connect the family. He speaks Russian and Yiddish, he had to learn,
okay.
And so he passes full time to reconnect the family to the people. So at least you will receive news from your village. I am from my village. I don't know. We lost an uncle. You will know what happened, because people remember. Because the Jews were not anonymous in the village. They were selling horses or candies or cookies, and they know where the guy who sold cookies is dead. So many families, I can give you a full list. It's also because it's also to give back the dead to the family.
Thank you. When you write in your book, you speak of the different kinds of witnesses that you questioned and the various categories, everyone from the indirect witnesses, the direct witnesses, and then what you call the requisitioned, who were actually participants willingly, unwillingly, from digging ditches to pulling out teeth and otherwise. When you're a priest and you're interviewing, and I have to imagine well, actually I have no idea. Is there an element of confession
I was sure you would raise this question.
Taking place, or are you interviewing? What do you think the impact of your interviewing has on the 90-year-old person recalling what took place?
First, you are right in one way. I'm a priest and I train because we have 5 team leaders, I'm the only priest. I train them in a way not to show anything. So if people say, for example, I will give you an example. I was in a family, they were hosting Jews, but they were killing them in the night to take everything. And the neighbors told me you should interview them. So I arrived to the family, and the woman said, "Oh, Father, I know why you come, because my neighbor told you Jews were dying in my farm." I said, "Yes." I said, "Is it true?" She said, "Yes." I said, many Jews died in your farm? She told me yes. It's clear that the parents were killing the Jews. So, but you cannot tell her, if you kill the Jews, because it's the end of the interview. So I was thinking how to do. I was thinking how to go out. I say, oh, ma'am, it must have been embarrassing to have all these dead Jews every morning. She told me, oh, I will show you. She said, she put her boots, her jacket, I have buried them myself. And she showed 18 small mass graves at the end of the village. It's because we show nothing that people speak. They don't know on which side we are. They don't know. I have family of killers. Oh, Father Patrick, come on. And they were a family of killers. It's the first thing. The second thing, no confession. Not one in 5,000 witnesses. I had only one terrible confession. It was at the beginning of my research. It was in Belzec. And I interviewed the carpenter. He was a worker, a Polish worker, and he built the gas chamber as a worker. So he explained how he did the door with 2 pieces of wood and sand in the middle so that the Jews were waiting outside, don't hear the Jews yelling inside, etc., etc. And so when he has finished explaining that, I packed my camera and he asked me, Father, will I be judged for what I did after death? And I was already not bad in the interview. I said, judge for what? He told me, because I worked on Sunday. And so I said, but did you ask the authorization to work on Sunday? He said, yes, I asked to the priest. And he gave an okay, because it was the only day, Father, when the SS gave the salary. And so I didn't answer. I was so surprised. So I went out of the house, and he ran after me and said, we'll have been judged, we'll have been judged. And, you know, it was legal to kill a Jew. It was legal to kill a gypsy. So legality drives the conscience, even 70 years after. I never felt any guilt. Not a drop. Not a drop. You know, the first Polish family I interviewed, I made a mistake. I knocked at the bad door. So the guy opened the door and said, what do you want? And I say, he said, oh, priest, oh, enter. My son is working in the church. I say, okay, but I don't come for that. I say, I'm looking for people present at the killing of the Jews. Say, my father was. So the old man arrived and said, oh, Father, I could catch myself 3 Jews. He said, the third one, he was not in a good shape because he escaped from mass grave and I brought him back to be shot. And he showed after also 4 or 5 mass graves. But you know, at the end of the interview, it was a beautiful day in summer. The family say, could we get a DVD of souvenir of grandfather? No problem. So you don't understand in which world we are. It's why I say anybody can be a killer, anybody can be a victim. Because me, when I was younger, I was thinking the writers were nice people, smiling, and the killers were awful. When I knock at the door, when I open the door, I don't know if they kill Jews and save Jews. They have the same smile. Same smile. So I learned humanity, you know. When you do that, you learn humanity. Because in the middle of a dinner, you discover they kill people. Or in the middle, you discover they save people. And it's the same dinner. I say that because when you go deeply in humanity, you change your point of view. What I learned also is, I say that in 60 minutes, when you had a shooting of Jews or gypsies, everybody wanted to go. I have, in a village, the director of the school, he closed the school, he gathered all the children, he said, tomorrow we kill our enemies. There is no class. You can go to see the shooting, it will be the lesson the day after. 37 children ran to the place. They arrived too early. There were no Jew, no German. They sat under a tree, and after suddenly they arrived, they saw all the killing all the day. They cried during the killing, but they stayed. And they always say, it was interesting for us, the children. So I realized when you were sure not to be killed, you were not Jew, you were not gypsy, you were not communist, you were not gay, you were not partisan, no risk. Interesting. Because this day you are alive and they die. That's humanity. That's humanity. Today, when ISIS kill people in Iraq, you don't see that. but there are police all around because there are 1,000 people to watch. I interviewed 3 girls who saw the pilot of Jordan burned alive. I don't know if you remember. 3 girls were present. And she told me, I said, did you say Allahu Akbar, something? No, it was forbidden because the camera said, I need the silence. And they were watching full day. Humanity is like that. It's why when you study a genocide from near, you have to be ready to jump in what the darkest side of humanity. And it's the same today.
Well, tell us about that. You just came back from Iraq last week.
Yeah.
You're heading back there. That's where much of your work is taking place right now, of Yachad Inunum. What are you discovering in Iraq? And
So in Iraq, ISIS has the same strategy. They kill anybody who is not like them. They kill non-Muslim, they expel the Christian, they kill the Yazidi, they kill the non-believers, they kill the gay that they throw from the building. And me, I work for the Yazidi to establish it's a genocide. They do the same way. They surrender the village. They tell them nothing will happen. You have only to convert to Islam and to put a white flag. After they convocate them to administration, and there they will split the families. They will choose the beautiful girls for the hierarchy. They ask a doctor to check the girl is virgin. The girls are taken away. All the poor girls not beautiful are sold by groups, 20, 30, 50, sold sometimes 4, 5, 6 times. The old women served as human shelter, and the men are shot in mass graves. Each village. We have interviewed 120 persons, and now we find the mass grave. Me, I do that, but we're still looking for the mass grave of the Jews. We have one team in Lithuania, and last week we have one team in Poland and Ukraine. So but I couldn't avoid to take care of the present. Because, they begin to shoot in Paris. They begin to shoot in Brussels. They begin to shoot in Toulouse. I cannot ask only for security. I don't want to take care only of Cain. Abel is dying there in Iraq. So people ask me, why do you go in Iraq? I say, because they kill people. Same system. And the world is still silent. In 1942, people were worried for the war, for Hitler, for the Mondial War with Japan, etc. Jews, so sad, but there is a war. Today, so sad for the Yazidi as a Christian, but there is a war and terrorism. So for that, I always say, only individual people like you, like me, like the rabbi, we can move to save people. Actually, we try to build a school to try that the boy who escaped find back, because they have been trained as terrorists. You pay a flight ticket, Lufthansa, Austrian airline, from Paris, 3 hours of flight, you are at the front, just near ISIS. And you come back and people are like over. Same story. The problem is that modernity and democracy is like an anesthesia for people. People think of their holidays, think of what they buy, what they sell, etc. They don't realize it's burning for others. As long as it's others. The president of the Jewish Community of France, he works with me, he's also vice president of my organization, and he told me, Patrick, we say that the level of ethic has grown now. People think like one world. He told me, no. The level of ethic is the same level that a team of football. You are from your team. And when it's not your team was a problem, it's not your problem. And I see that everywhere. It's why we have to work hard. We are still at the beginning of the Bible. That's the problem. But, I'm sorry if you sleep not well after my speech. One day I met a lady in Miami, and I met her the day after, and she said, oh, Father, I couldn't sleep all the night after your speech. I say, it's the beginning of conscience. And I only work with people who don't sleep well.
Oh. Well, you say that we're always at the beginning of the Bible, and that's something that will keep me up tonight. Here in synagogue, we are actually in the middle of the Bible. We are at Acharei Mot Kedoshim, Acharei Mot after death, and Kedoshim holiness. Those are the Torah readings that we're chanting in the weeks ahead. I can't think of a better way to frame this evening through the partnership of JTS and Yachad Inunam, that we know that we're Acharei Mot. We know that we're after the death. We know all the more so this evening that on Yom Hashoah that we remember, and as you say, our commitments to the dead, our commitments to the past to remember. But we also know through the sacred work of the Jewish Theological Seminary that we never give up on the opportunity for Kedoshim, of holiness, and to infuse and instill in this world opportunities to bring God's presence into our world, no matter how difficult that is. Neither Yachad Inunam nor the Jewish Theological Seminary would exist without your support. And I hope that everyone takes very seriously your commitments to the victims, to the sacred work of Father Bois, and I hope, please God, your commitments to the Jewish Theological Seminary will ensure a very vibrant, exciting Jewish future for us all here in North America. Father Bois, thank you so much for giving us your evening. Thank you for being here.